back to my YouTube channel. Today we're gonna be doing some napkin painting, also known as decoupage. I wanted to show you guys kind of what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be decorating a little wooden box like this. I have these wooden boxes that my mom has done for me through the years. They're great because they're really useful for basically everything. For example, this one I use it to put all my recipes. This one is where I keep teas and coffee, and this last one I made it to try out the technique, and I put just some cables and stuff in there to not have a mess in my desk. So without further ado, let's get crafty. Things that we're gonna need for today's project are some wood varnish, sandpaper. I'm gonna be using medium sandpaper, some water, a cute napkin with any pattern of your liking, a wooden box, white paint, and make sure that the paint that you're using can be used on wood, white glue, and a couple paint brushes. So the first thing we're gonna do is to paint our wood box with white paint. But before we do that, we're gonna remove all the metal pieces, like for example the latch and the hinges on the back, if your wood box have any. When removing the screws from your box and all the pieces, make sure to place them somewhere where they won't get lost, because at the end we will assemble it all back together. I remove all my metal pieces from my box, and now I'm gonna paint it with white paint. Because I'm just doing this in my kitchen, I'm gonna put a plastic bag so the paint doesn't get anywhere. So that is all done, and now I'm gonna paint my box. So I'm gonna grab my paint and pour it into a little ramekin plastic glass that you have. Because the paint is really thick, I'm gonna dilute it with a little bit of water. And this is the consistency your paint should have. Liquidy, but still thick. So my paint is ready to go, and I'm gonna start painting my box. I'm gonna do a first layer. I'm gonna let this one dry and then go for another coat. So I've done my first coat on both of the pieces of the wood box, and now I'm gonna go for my second coat on the first layer I did, because it's already dry. The painting on the boxes is all done, and now we're just gonna have to wait till our paint is completely dry. So see you in a few hours. Our paint is all dry, and now we're gonna proceed with our next step, which will be painting with a napkin. So this is where all the fun begins. We're gonna grab our napkins and measure them around the box to see how many we will need. So I think one will be enough for my top part. So I think I'm gonna need 2 for the second layer. So that is a total of 3 napkins. Once we know how many napkins we're gonna need, the next step will be to grab our napkin and remove the layer that doesn't have the pattern on it. Go to a corner and grab both sides, and really carefully we're gonna start to pull it apart. And we're gonna have the other side with the pattern, which is what we're gonna be using. So we're gonna repeat the same step with our other napkins that we measured, and I'll tell you guys what to do next. So I have my napkins ready, and now we're gonna proceed to mix our glue and our water. We're gonna be using a 2/3 of glue and 1/3 of water ratio. So I'm gonna start by pouring my glue into my ramekin. And now I'm gonna add my water. We mix until it's all mixed together. So this is the consistency you guys want to reach. Pretty liquidy mix. Okay, so now I have my napkin, my white box, and glue mix. And I'm gonna start by putting this on top of my box, making sure we have enough space for the sides as well. Now with our brush, I'm gonna start with a small brush like this. I'm gonna dip it into my glue mix and start brushing it into my box. As you can see, it's sticking into our box. When doing this, make sure to not over put some of our glue mix, otherwise you will end up breaking your napkin. And also make sure to go slowly so our napkin stays as straight as possible. So try to do it by sections, that way it will be easier. If you find that you're creating some wrinkles into your napkin, really carefully straighten it out. And keep putting your glue. Once we done the top layer, we're gonna start by doing the sides. So really carefully flip it around. Make sure to pull from the bottom to the top to make it as straight as possible. As you can see, I glued my napkin all the way around my box, and now I'm just gonna cut the edges of it. From the corner, I just cut it as close as possible to the box. And we finish it with a coat of glue right there. Repeat the same step with my other 3 corners and I'll show you guys the end result. So all my corners are cut down. Now with my sandpaper, I'm gonna run it through the napkin at the end of the box. That way we'll cut our remaining napkin. And proceed to do that with the rest of your sides. We're gonna do one more coat of our glue and water mix to make sure the napkin is completely stick to our wood. Make sure that when you're doing your second coat, you don't have any excess glue mix. Otherwise, when the glue dries, it will have bubbles. Our top layer is ready, so now we're gonna do the second part of the box. For this one, we said we're gonna be using 2 napkins because one is not big enough to cover all our box. So you're gonna measure it the way you wanted your napkin placed. So I'm gonna do the top part and 2 of the sides with 1 napkin. So for this one, I'm gonna be showing you another technique. We're gonna start by putting our glue first into the box. We're gonna do it by sections. So I'm gonna start with this section over here and place your napkin wherever you want it to be positioned. Always start from top to bottom. Once it's placed in the box, you're gonna put more of your mix. Both techniques work really well, but I think in order to have less bubbles and less wrinkles, this one works a little bit better. But again, try both and whatever works best for you. I'm gonna lift it and do the other second half. Now I'm gonna do the other 2 sides. I'm gonna be covering with this napkin. I've glued my 2 sides together and I'm gonna proceed to remove the corner. So we covered the 3 sides that I was planning on covering with this napkin, and now I'm gonna cover the 2 remaining sides with my other napkin. I already painted with the napkins my 2 sides of the box, and now we're just gonna let it dry. Our glue is all dry, and now we're on to our last step, which is to put a coat of varnish into our box so it has that glossy finish that we want. For my varnish, I picked a matte finish, so it's not gonna be as shiny, but you can pick any varnish that you like, super glossy, not glossy, it's up to you. It is really important that your glue is completely dry before doing your varnish. And also, when you're coating with varnish, if you want to do more than 1 coat, it has to be completely dry. For my varnish, when you first put it, it looks a little bit milky, but once it dries, it's gonna be completely clear. Something I would like to point out is that this step is really important because the varnish will help you cover the napkin so it doesn't get wrecked in the future. So it is important that you do not skip the varnish step. So I just finished giving my box a coat of varnish, and now we're just gonna let it dry. I'm just gonna give it 1 coat, but again, if you like it super glossy and you want a second coat, you'll have to wait until it's completely dry to recoat it. If your box doesn't have any clips that we're gonna have to put back, then this was your last step and you're done. But since mine has some metal pieces we have to reassemble, we're gonna let it dry and come back to it. So finally, our box is all dried, and now I'm just gonna assemble together to show you guys the final result. And there you have it, guys. Our cute little wooden box is all ready. This is so cute. It was really easy to make. We didn't have to actually paint it. And we have this cool pattern on our box. And now you only have to find a place where to put it in your house. I hope you guys liked doing this craft and the video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, turn on the bell notification button, and leave me a comment. If you also want to follow me on my journey, I will be linking my social media down below. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys on the next video.